Hey everyone, welcome back to the Widowed Parent Podcast Live. I'm here today with Catherine Monaco Douglas of Widowed Not Alone. Catherine, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to speak with you this morning, or this afternoon, your time, as the case may be. So tell us about Widowed Not Alone. First of all, where are you located?
We're located in Long Island, New York, and we've been in existence for 15 years, going on 16.
Terrific.
And we help young widows and widowers and their children. And we have 8-week programs that are non-denominational, so it's not religious based, and nonprofit, so there's no fee.
Yeah. So, well, how did you get involved in this line of work, or why did you create Widowed Not Alone?
I lost my husband when I was 42 years old, and I went into a bereavement group, and I had to wait 3 months before they would take me. And the first 3 months was really traumatic for me. He died suddenly. He was 44. I have 3 children, 11, 14, and 18 at the time. And during the wait, it was terrible. I was suicidal, and my thoughts were all over the place, and I needed something, it was awful. So when I finally got into the group, everyone was sitting around in a circle, and they were sharing the details of their loss. And I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know what to expect. And listening to everyone's losses on top of mine was just too much to take in. And I kept going, not going. And after that group, I felt like I needed more, and there was no continuation. And then I went to another group, and it started from the beginning again. Everyone's sitting in a circle, sharing the details of their loss. And I said, okay, this isn't for me. And I got up and I stormed out, hysterical crying. And I told myself, if I ever get through this, I'm going to go back and start something. And 5 years later, I started my own group.
Terrific. Well, so how is your group different than, so you talked about sitting around in a circle and telling the details of the loss. And also, I think you said a lot of these groups didn't even accept you in those first 3 months. They made you wait. So
we don't have that rule.
Okay.
That was the first rule I broke, was we take people before the 3 months. And the second rule I broke was that we continue, we stay connected. So before social media, we had always stayed connected, and we don't share the details of the loss. No one in the room is a therapist, and we do get all types of traumatic losses, and it's really hard to take on when you're grieving. So like, I listen to the calls, I register everyone. So I let people talk to me, and I'm not grieving, so I could hear the stories. But I don't think it's fair to the people that are in the room. I always say you have to know your audience. You have to be able to listen to the stories. And like, we could have up to 15, 18 people in a room, and that's a lot of stories to listen to. So we're real careful not to do that.
Gotcha. And then you mentioned it's not time limited. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So after the 8 weeks, we pick a captain and a co-captain out of the group, and that person keeps the group meeting. And then we have 3 gatherings a year with everyone, all the groups. And we have a Halloween party. Some years we've had a holiday party. We have a big picnic walk where everyone gathers in the summer. So we have other where we bring everyone together with their children and everything. So in 2019, we had over 1,000 people. This was 2019 that came to support our group. And it's a great gathering of people who support what we're doing.
Terrific. And okay, so you're on Long Island. Are these groups for people specifically in your geographic location, or can people elsewhere participate in some way?
No, we've opened it up last year during COVID. We started with Zoom sessions, and I was like, why not help everyone? Why do we have to limit ourselves to Long Island? So we started taking people from other states. which worked out great. I even coached a few people from other countries,
Ah.
which worked out really nice for them as well. So
Mhm.
social media, you meet so many different people from all over. So whoever we could help, we're there for.
Mhm. And is it women and men? And is it what
Yes.
age groups are we talking about?
Well, we go as young as 21. We've had in the group because we have loss of boyfriend, girlfriend, or fiance or partners. And we go up to like 75, 80 years old in the daytime group. So, but my concentration has always been on the young widow and widower and their children, because that's really what I related to because I was so young when I lost my husband.
And you said when your husband died, your kids were kind of in that teenage age group.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
had to raise teenage kids by myself. So that wasn't easy.
Yeah.
And so I relate to that, and back then, because we didn't have social media, therapy wasn't like as big as it is today. Like we didn't have talk therapy apps and all this type of stuff that we have today. So if you didn't take your kid to an actual therapist, it was hard to get them to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it still is a challenge for a lot of parents.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that because I think a lot of parents wonder, like, should I take my kid to therapy? Should I not? How do I know if I should? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. So being that I'm connected to the groups for so many years, people call me years later to say that their kid is now grieving now, like 7 years later. Like children don't always grieve when it happens. Sometimes it's years later. So I always say it's good in the beginning to just let them meet the nice lady or the nice man therapist, so they have some kind of a connection, so that, let's say the pet passes away or a grandparent, they have to move, like another loss comes up, they'll have this connection that they can later go back to when something happens and say, oh, remember that person I took you to? Let's go back there. And this way the connection is established. It's very hard to establish it when they're in their teens. It's easy to do it when they're younger. And for the teenagers, therapists have told me that the best way to get them to go is if you go and they see what you're doing and you're the role model and they see that it's helping you, then they may then be willing to go. But you can't force a teenage kid to go to therapy.
Yeah. That's a very interesting point, the modeling of you going and yeah, I like that. Thank you for pointing that out. And, and you mentioned you can't force a teenage kid to go. That's an interesting point too. And sometimes even if you think you can, or you're kind of sort of managed to get them there, you can't force them to actually participate, or you can't force them to, have a thoughtful, useful discussion with a therapist, even if you somehow drag them there. Right.
And plenty of women and men have done that. They've dragged them there and then they can't get them to speak. Right. I did it with my 18-year-old. I brought him in and he looked around the room and he saw that in all the photos, the therapist didn't have one picture with his wife. So he said to him, so how long are you and your wife separated? So the therapist says, how do you know we're separated? He said, well, not one picture has your wife in it. He goes, well, it's true. I am separated. He says, and when did you lose your dad? And he said, I never did. He said, you didn't lose your dad. You can't keep your marriage together and you're going to tell me what to do with my dad? I mean, this is an 18-year-old, right? So, and he walked out in the waiting room. He said, save your money. He can't even fix his own life. He's not going to fix mine. So we have groups for kids my son's age, like 18 and in young 20s. And I think the groups work out better for that age group because they're just talking with other kids, and the facilitator that does the group lost her dad when she was that age. So it's that same thing, like what my son said. How is he going to know how to help me? What, from a book?
Yeah.
And he kind of felt like, if you didn't live this, how are you going to know?
Right.
And I think all of us relate to that.
Right. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Good. Well, I'm very glad to hear about the programs you guys have going on. Is there anything we missed about your programs that you want people to know about?
No, that you could reach me at widowednotalone.com. My website is there. My phone number is on the website. And I do one-on-one coaching too for anyone who needs it, by donation only. And that's it. We're here. We're available for people that, are going through this.
Yeah. Okay. So widowednotalone.com. I'll be sure to put a link down below so people
Thank
can
you.
find you. And Catherine, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you.